Greenland is the largest island in the world, yet only a very small number of people live here. Despite its massive size, its population is only around a few tens of thousands. Most of this land appears completely empty, with almost no visible settlements across vast areas. In reality, most people live only along the narrow coastal edges. Small towns are scattered along the coastline, separated by vast distances. So why does such a massive place remain so sparsely populated? A large part of Greenland is covered by a massive ice sheet that spreads across most of the island. This ice sheet is so large that it dominates nearly the entire central region. In some areas, the ice is probably several kilometers thick. This frozen interior makes most of the land extremely difficult to live on. As a result, most of the interior remains empty, while only the outer edges are used for settlements. This natural barrier alone probably explains why such a large land area remains mostly unused. Greenland is located far in the northern part of the world, close to the Arctic region. Because of its location, temperatures often remain very low for most of the year. Winters can be long and dark, with very limited daylight in many regions. Even during summer, conditions remain relatively cold compared to most parts of the world. These conditions make everyday life and long-term settlement more difficult in many areas. This climate is another major reason why large parts of Greenland remain sparsely populated. In Greenland, towns and settlements are spread far apart along the coastline. But unlike most countries, these places are not connected by roads. The landscape between them is often covered in ice, mountains, or rough terrain. Because of this, travel between towns often happens by air. In some cases, boats are also used along the coastline. This makes movement between places slower and more limited compared to most other countries. In Greenland, almost all settlements are located along the coastline rather than the interior. The central part of the island is mostly empty, covered by thick ice with no permanent towns. The coastal areas, however, have relatively more accessible land and open water nearby. As a result, towns tend to form small clusters along these narrow coastal strips. These settlements are often spread out along the edges, with large gaps between them. This pattern creates a place where most of the land remains unused while life stays close to the ocean. On many world maps, Greenland appears extremely large compared to other countries. But in reality, it is much smaller than continents like Africa. This happens because of how the Earth is projected onto a flat map. Areas closer to the poles often appear stretched and larger than they actually are. When viewed more accurately, Greenland's size becomes much more realistic. So while it looks enormous on maps, its actual size is very different from what many expect. Greenland is located far from most major population centers in the world. It is separated by vast stretches of ocean, making access more limited. Connections to other regions often depend on a small number of routes. Many towns exist in isolation, far from each other and from the outside world. Large distances and natural barriers make movement and expansion more difficult. All of these factors together help explain why such a large island remains sparsely populated. Despite its large size, most of Greenland has almost no trees at all. Large areas are covered by ice or bare ground with no visible forests. The cold climate and frozen ground make it difficult for trees to grow. The growing season is also very short, limiting plant life across most regions. Compared to forested regions in other parts of the world, Greenland appears almost completely barren. This lack of vegetation further limits where people can live across the island. Greenland lies within the Arctic region, where daylight patterns behave very differently. During summer, some parts of Greenland experience continuous daylight for extended periods. This means the sun may remain visible even during what would normally be night. In winter, the opposite happens, with long periods of darkness in many areas. This extreme contrast between light and darkness is very different from most regions on Earth. These unusual daylight patterns add another layer to Greenland's unique environment. Greenland is not a fully independent country, but an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. Despite this connection, the two are separated by a very large distance. Greenland manages many of its internal affairs locally. Its geography and environment make it very different from mainland Europe. Even on maps, Greenland appears separate and distant from the rest of Europe. This unique position makes Greenland both connected and distant at the same time. In many parts of Greenland, massive glaciers extend all the way from land into the ocean. These glaciers slowly move across the land and reach the sea at the edges. At the coastline, large pieces of ice sometimes break off into the ocean. These pieces then float away as icebergs in the surrounding waters. This creates constantly changing coastlines shaped by ice and ocean interaction. This interaction between ice and ocean is a defining feature of Greenland's landscape. Greenland may look massive on the map, but its geography tells a very different story. From ice-covered interiors to isolated coastal towns, every part of it shapes how people live here. It's not empty, it's simply shaped by conditions that limit where life can exist. And there are other places on Earth where geography creates equally unexpected patterns. If you found this interesting, there's more to explore in similar regions around the world.